Hello, I'm Ruben from Manuscrew, and this is EDH Archetypes, where I talk about some of the best archetypes in the format, go into common cards, commanders, and colours associated with it. Today we're talking about an archetype suggested by Oliver C21. It's a great
archetype. Whoa, that was weird. Anyway, Oliver suggested we take a dive into mill decks today. Mill or milling is a term which has been around since the earliest days of Magic. One of the rules of the game is that if you go to draw a card and there are none in your library, you instead lose the game. Mill seeks to take advantage of this by emptying our opponent's library of cards. It's a truly unique archetype and because of this has a niche but devoted following. Mill cards revolve around effects that take the top card of your library and put it into the graveyard or exile it. It's particularly difficult in EDH because of the fact you have to commit to mill against multiple opponents who all have 99 cards in their decks. So let's see how we can get this done in this episode of EDH Archetypes. Mill is found almost exclusively in blue and black. When you play Mill, your opponents are likely to have one of two reactions. They will either have a soft fondness to watching you trying to commit to a difficult to accomplish archetype, or they will despise you for making them throw away their favourite cards. Mill is also dangerous to play against decks like Carador, Muldrotha, or really any deck that toys around using cards in its graveyard. A Mill deck into one of these decks... Just slap it on! Slap it on the end! A Mill deck into one of these decks is like throwing gasoline onto a car fire. It's only going to make the situation escalate. Blue is the more prevalent colour than black for Mill, with most Mill cards being blue or Dimir. The top two mono-black cards for Mill decks are Grisly Spectacle and White of Precinct 6, whereas the top two mono-blue cards are Traumatized and Psychic Corrosion. You can see that the blue cards are actually effective as Mill cards. One of the good things about Mill being in a Dimir colour pairing is that Dimir is great at taking things out of our opponent's graveyard, meaning we can mill our opponents, then use tools from their grave that we have milled. Puppeteer Click, Memory Plunder, or effects like Beacon of Unrest are all great for dragging our opponent's creatures and spells, kicking and screaming, out of their graves. Blue and black also has access to some wheel and group draw effects. The downside of these is that they give our opponents tools, but can be good to speed up our milling. Cards like Jace's Archivist, Windfall and Force Fruition can be incredibly helpful here at cycling through our opponent's library. Now let's find out what Mill Commander suits our playstyle best. I was surprised when looking at the Mill Commanders how many of them I didn't know were prevalent Mill decks. I was aware of Una, Queen of the Fae and Phoenix, and I think these are the two most mainstream decks, so it makes sense. Since I've mentioned him, let's take a look at Phoenix, God of Deception first, and we'll get onto some of the other Mill decks out there later. Phoenix is the most popular Mill general. This is likely partially due to his indestructibility, which people love to have on their commanders. He reads, creatures you control have tap, and target player mills an amount equal to that creature's toughness. This means that he plays very differently to other Mill decks, still wanting the key pieces like Psychic Corrosion, but backing them up with utility defenders and high toughness creatures like Tree of Perdition, Sire of Stagnation, and Wall of Frost. Phoenix himself has 7 toughness, meaning you're almost guaranteed to mill a person for 7 a turn. It also runs a lot more creatures who have power and toughness equal to the number of cards in graveyards, since these creatures can tap to mill insane amounts or just swing in for large chunks of our opponent's health. Now let's talk about Una, Queen of the Fae. Una is a flying fairy who has an X cost mill ability on her. She takes cards from our opponent's library and sticks them in exile, meaning creatures with power and toughness equal to cards in grave are not as good in Una decks, and cards that plunder our opponent's yards are also not so good. Instead, Una packs mana doublers, like Crypt Ghast and Doubling Cube, to provide her with more fuel to pay her X cost. A card of particular interest in Una decks is Altar of the Brood, which is especially good in her decks built around mill, since her ability can create 1/1 flyers that will also mill out opponents when they enter. According to EDH According to EDH, this next card is the commander of the second most played mill deck, and that was surprising to me, since its abilities have no inherent mill in them. Lazav, the mere mastermind, is the second most popular mill general because, well, what's just a little worse than indestructibility? Hexproof. Lazav can become a copy of any creature that is entering the graveyard. Meaning, with a mill strategy attached, he can become a copy of any creature we mill from our opponents. If you're looking for the most true to form mill deck, Lazav is it. None of this mana doubling or tapping creatures with big butts. Lazav just mills our opponents and uses their own big creatures against them. Clones seem to be a big thing in Lazav decks, with some of the more interesting clones like Dimir Doppelganger and Evil Twin coming up very frequently. Lastly, we have a card I have never seen in person, Mirko Vosk, Mind Drinker. He has to deal commander damage to get his ability off, but when he does, that player reveals cards until they reveal full length, then put them into the graveyard. Dealing the damage is a bit of a drawback, but again, this is commander. We have so many ways to make him unblockable that we should be able to get him for damage quite often. A bit of secret tech regarding this deck is that you can give Mirko Vosk double strike, which means he'll deal damage, then deal damage again, allowing you to capitalize on 2 triggers of his ability. Cards like Fire Shrieker are probably the best for achieving this. Bum 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 Millie's still cool. Bum 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 bum. Okay. Which cards should you put into your deck? Dismissing the dreams, that's why you should. Let's go into some of the most powerful mill cards and staples. I mentioned previously Psychic Corrosion and Traumatize. These two are some of the most powerful mill cards we can get out, but by no means are they the only ones. Fleet Swallower allows us to get a potentially repeatable Traumatize effect. It's also worth noting that you don't have to mill half the library of the defending player, meaning you can attack somebody who is open and mill the person who is most threatening or you want to utilize cards from. A great combo with these cards that mill half a person's library is Keening Stone. Swing with Fleet Swallower, then activate Keening Stone. Boom! Someone's dead! Mind Grind, Mind Funeral and Startled Awake are one-time mill effects that will get rid of a chunk of our opponent's library. And Mind Crank, Fraying Sanity, Sphinx Tutelage and Memory Erosion will make our opponents throw dozens of cards away if they go unchecked over the course of the game. How do we take advantage of the amount of cards in our opponent's graves? Well, Consuming Aberration, Night Howler and Mortivore all have our backs becoming huge as we drain our opponent's cards and resources into the graveyards. Lastly, something to note is that Commander has become full of powerful effects that will shuffle our graveyards into our library if they are milled. The best example being the Eldrazi Titans like Ulamog, Ceaseless Skyer or Kozilek, Watcher of Truth. We do have to be careful and have ways of dealing with these threats to our strategy, or we'll have few ways to deal with the player who has them. Graveyard hate like Dimir Doppelganger, Eater of the Dead and Crypt Incursion are great for eliminating these effects and stopping them from ruining our game plan, because they can be used at instant speed and
that's all we're going to have time for today. Thank you everyone for watching.
We've been Raven from
Manister. So that was Mill. Please let me know if there's anything that you think I've missed, and what archetype would you like to see covered next? Hopefully this video showed you some cards, ideas, or inspirations, and it gives you some guidance on how to throw your opponent's libraries into the bin. Thank you again for watching. If you feel like it deserves it, leave a like. I've been so happy with the positive responses from you guys lately, and so pleased to see you guys enjoying the videos. Happy April Fools.